The laundry detergent smelled like lavender and lies. I, Carmen Diaz, 34, a pediatric nurse at Boston General Hospital, stood frozen in our small laundry room, holding the crumpled receipt that would shatter my world. My husband Matt's pants had yielded their secret when I emptied the pockets before washing. Sunrise Motel, $89.99, room 212. Last Thursday, the exact day Matt claimed he was working late. I might have dismissed it as a business expense, but the handwritten phone number on the back made my blood run cold. I knew that number by heart. Megan Wilson had been my best friend since college. The digits stared back at me, mocking my 12 years of marriage. My hands trembled. I leaned against the washing machine, its gentle hum a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. Rain tapped against the window, echoing the tears I was too shocked to shed. I needed proof before confrontation. Matt was upstairs showering, whistling that annoying tune he always hummed when he was in a good mood. The sound now made my stomach turn. I pulled out my phone and called the motel. Sunrise Motel. How can I help you? A bored voice answered. Hi, this is Megan Wilson, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I left my earrings in room 212 last Thursday. Could you check if they found them? Let me see. Papers shuffled. Ah, yes, Ms. Wilson. You were with Mr. Diaz, right? He paid cash, but we still have your contact info. No earrings reported, but I can double-check with housekeeping. That would be great, thank you. I whispered, ending the call. The bathroom door opened upstairs. Matt's footsteps echoed above me. Carmen, have you seen my blue tie? He called down. I stuffed the receipt in my pocket. No, but I'll look for it, I answered, amazed at how normal I sounded. My wedding photo hung on the wall by the laundry room door. Matt and I on the beach, sunset behind us, his arms around my waist. I thought we were happy. We'd been trying for a baby for the past year. And Megan, she'd helped me pick out my wedding dress. She was my maid of honor. 2 weeks ago, we'd had brunch, and she'd listened sympathetically as I worried about my marriage growing distant. Just give him space, she'd advised. Men need that sometimes. I pulled out my phone again and texted Matt. Having lunch with Megan tomorrow. Need anything from downtown? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Didn't know you were meeting her. No, I'm good. Have fun. I opened my conversation with Megan next. Free for lunch tomorrow? Need girl talk. Her response came quickly. Can't tomorrow, swamped with client meetings all day. Rain check. I smiled bitterly. The first lie confirmed. Matt came downstairs, smelling of cologne and deception. He kissed my cheek as if he hadn't betrayed every vow we'd made. Found my tie, he said. Listen, I might be late again tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. No problem, I replied, studying his face. I'll probably call Megan, see if she wants to grab dinner. His expression flickered. Just for a moment, but I caught it. Fear. Guilt. I thought she was busy this week, he said carefully. Did I tell you that? I asked innocently. Must have. He grabbed his keys. Love you. The door closed behind him. I stood alone in our home, that suddenly felt like a museum of lies. I walked to our home office and opened his laptop. The password had been my birthday for years. The screen unlocked, revealing his email. Nothing suspicious there. He was too careful. But his Google Maps timeline wasn't password protected. I clicked on Thursday. There it was, a 20-minute stop at Sunrise Motel. I checked previous Thursdays. The same motel, same duration, for the past 2 months. My phone buzzed with a text from Megan. Actually freed up tomorrow. Lunch at Rosetta's at 1? What she didn't know was that I had already confirmed their affair, and was already formulating a plan that would make both of them regret every secret rendezvous they ever had. I barely slept that night. When morning came, I dressed carefully, a red dress Matt once said looked amazing on me. Hair loosely curled the way Megan always envied. The restaurant mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. Someone with fire in her eyes instead of tears. Rosetta's was crowded when I arrived, the lunch rush in full swing. Megan waved from a corner table, wearing the silver bracelet I'd given her for her last birthday. The irony wasn't lost on me. You look stunning, she gushed as I sat down. New dress. No, just haven't worn it in a while. I smiled. Matt always liked this one. Her eyes flickered. How is he? Still working those crazy hours? Oh yes, I replied, studying the menu. Especially Thursdays. The waiter came and we ordered. I waited until he left before leaning forward. So how's your love life? Anyone new? Megan stirred her water with a straw. Nobody special. You know how dating apps are, full of losers and liars. That's disappointing, I said. I thought maybe you'd met someone. You've been so busy lately. Just work, she said quickly. The real estate market is insane right now. I nodded sympathetically. Must be exhausting. All those showings, meeting clients at odd hours. Exactly. Relief flooded her face. Sometimes I'm showing houses until 9 or 10 at night. Even motels? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her fork clattered against the plate. What? I reached into my purse and placed the receipt on the table between us. Room 212. Does it have a nice view? The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. Carmen, I can explain. I'm sure you can. My voice remained calm, even as anger bubbled beneath the surface. Was it just sex, or were you planning to take my husband too? Tears filled her eyes. It just happened. We never meant to. To what? Hurt me? Betray me? Lie to my face for months. My voice never rose, but my words landed like slaps. It was a mistake, she whispered. We were going to end it. Matt feels terrible. So terrible that he met you there again yesterday? I watched confusion cross her face. A guess, but her reaction confirmed it. The waiter brought our food. I smiled and thanked him while Megan dabbed at her eyes. Does it make you feel powerful? I asked after he left. Sleeping with my husband while helping me pick out fertility vitamins? She reached for my hand. I pulled away. Please, Carmen. I love you. You're my best friend. Correction. I was your best friend. I took a bite of my salad. The food's delicious here. You should eat. How can you be so calm? She asked. I placed my fork down carefully. Because I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Fear flickered across her face. What does that mean? It means enjoy your lunch, Megan. It might be the last peaceful meal you have for a while. I stood up, dropping cash on the table. Tell Matt I said hi when you see him tonight. We're not, she started. Save it for someone who still believes your lies. I leaned down, my voice just above a whisper. By the way, Matt talks in his sleep. All those little secrets he's told you about me? I know exactly what he's told you about himself too. Her face paled further. It was a bluff, but it worked. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. A text from Matt. Meeting running late. Don't wait up. I smiled at my phone and typed. No problem. Having dinner with Jason from accounting. He's been so supportive lately. There was no Jason in accounting, but Matt wouldn't know that. 3 dots appeared immediately, disappeared, then reappeared. Who's Jason? I didn't answer, slipping the phone back into my purse as I stepped into the bright afternoon sunlight. I had shopping to do. First stop, an electronics store. I purchased a small recording device and 2 tiny cameras. The sales clerk explained how they worked, oblivious to my intentions. Setting up home security? He asked cheerfully. Something like that, I replied. Next, I visited my bank and opened a new account in my name only. I transferred half of our savings, money I'd earned during years of night shifts and overtime. Matt wouldn't notice until it was too late. My final stop was my attorney's office. Sandra Patel had handled my parents' estate after they died. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. Carmen, she said, surprised when her assistant showed me in. Is everything okay? I need divorce advice, I said, sitting down. And I need to know how to protect myself financially. Her expression softened with understanding. Tell me everything. For the next hour, I laid out what I knew and my suspicions about what I didn't. Sandra took notes, occasionally asking questions. Do you want to save the marriage? She finally asked. No, I said, surprising myself with how certain I felt. But I want to leave on my terms, not theirs. She nodded. Then here's what we're going to do. By the time I left her office, I had a plan. Not just for divorce, but for something more satisfying first. When I arrived home, the house was still empty. I went straight to work, installing the tiny cameras in our bedroom and the living room. The recording device went under the coffee table. Then I called my hospital's HR department and requested 2 weeks of accumulated vacation time, effective immediately. My supervisor was surprised but supportive. "Everything okay, Carmen?" she asked. "Family emergency," I lied. "But I'll handle it." I was making dinner when Matt finally came home. His shirt was wrinkled, hair slightly mussed. He kissed my cheek, and I detected unfamiliar perfume. Not my scent. Not even Megan's usual vanilla fragrance. "A third woman? How was your day?" he asked, loosening his tie. "Illuminating," I answered truthfully. "Yours?" "Exhausting. That presentation took forever." He grabbed a beer from the fridge. "How was lunch with Megan?" So she told him. I wondered what else they'd discussed. "Interesting," I said. She seemed distracted. He took a long sip of beer. "Probably work stress." "Probably," I agreed. "Dinner's almost ready." As we ate, I studied my husband. The man I'd loved for 12 years. The man who now seemed like a stranger. "You're quiet tonight," he observed. "Just thinking about the future," I replied. "Anything specific?" I smiled. "You could say I'm at a crossroads." Later, as he showered, I checked his phone. He'd deleted his texts with Megan, but not recent calls. They'd spoken for 12 minutes after my lunch with her. I also found something unexpected. Texts with someone named Kay, with references to meetings that didn't align with his work calendar or his rendezvous with Megan. Not just one affair, but two? My hands shook with anger. When he emerged from the bathroom, I was already in bed, pretending to read. "I thought you were having dinner with that Jason guy," he said casually, but I caught the edge in his voice. "Cancelled," I replied without looking up. "He had a family emergency." "Convenient," Matt muttered. I placed my book down. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing." He climbed into bed. "I just think it's inappropriate for you to have dinner alone with other men." The audacity nearly made me laugh. "Like it's inappropriate for you to have motel meetings with other women?" His head snapped toward me, eyes wide. I had almost slipped. "Not yet. Not until I had everything in place." "What are you talking about?" he demanded. I forced a laugh. "I'm talking about your reaction. You looked guilty for a second." He relaxed slightly. "Don't be ridiculous." "Would it bother you if I did have dinner with another man?" I asked. "Of course it would. We're married." I turned off my light and rolled away from him. "Good to know where you stand on loyalty." He was quiet for a long moment. "Carmen, is everything okay with us?" "You tell me, Matt," I said into the darkness. "Are we okay?" He didn't answer. What Matt didn't realize was that I had already spoken to his boss earlier that day, and learned that not only was there no presentation, but Matt had called in sick, and this wasn't the first time his stories hadn't aligned with his whereabouts. Morning light filtered through the curtains as I pretended to sleep. Matt dressed quietly, leaned over to kiss my forehead, then left for work. I waited until I heard his car pull away before jumping into action. The cameras had recorded everything overnight. I downloaded the footage and listened to his late-night phone call in the living room while I'd been sleeping. "She's suspicious," Matt whispered into his phone. "Megan said she showed her a receipt from the motel." A pause as he listened to the response. "No, I don't think she knows about you. But we need to be more careful." Another pause. I know. Just give me time to figure this out. I can't afford a divorce right now." "Couldn't afford a divorce?" My hands clenched into fists. "We owned our home together. Both had good jobs. Unless." I booted up my laptop and logged into our joint investment account. The balance seemed correct, but when I checked the transaction history, I discovered regular transfers to an account I didn't recognize over the past 4 months. He was hiding money, preparing for something. My phone rang, startling me. "Megan." "Carmen, please talk to me," she begged when I answered. "I haven't slept all night." "That's unfortunate," I replied coldly. "I ended it with Matt yesterday after lunch. I swear." It was a terrible mistake. Which part? Sleeping with my husband or getting caught? She started crying. Both. I don't expect you to forgive me, but you deserve to know something. I'm listening. I opened my email, forwarding the investment account statements to Sandra. Matt's been seeing someone else too, Megan said between sobs. Some woman from his gym. That's why I finally realized how little I meant to him. So I was right about Kay and his phone. How heartbreaking for you. I said without sympathy. Did it ever occur to you that I might mean something to him? He said you two were practically separated, she whispered. That you were distant, always working. And you believed that? My laugh was bitter. While I was working night shifts to save for the family we were planning. More sobbing. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it right. A plan formed in my mind. Anything. Yes, she said eagerly. Anything at all. Meet me at Cornerstone Cafe in an hour. Come alone. I hung up without waiting for her response, then texted Matt. Found your credit card statement in the mail. We need to talk. Dinner at home tonight, 7 p.m. His response came quickly. What statement? What's this about? I didn't answer. Let him sweat. Cornerstone Cafe was quiet mid-morning. I chose a secluded table and ordered coffee. Megan arrived looking terrible. Eyes puffy, hair pulled into a messy ponytail, wearing workout clothes instead of her usual polished attire. Thank you for meeting me, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. I pushed a paper across the table. Sign this. She looked down at it, confused. What is this? A formal statement admitting to your affair with Matt Diaz, including dates, locations, and the fact that you knew he was married to me. Her hand flew to her mouth. Carmen, I can't sign this. It could affect my career, my reputation. You should have thought about that before sleeping with my husband. Please, she begged. I'll tell Matt it's over for good. I'll move away. Just don't make me sign this. I leaned forward. Tell me about the other woman. Megan hesitated, then sighed. Her name is Kira. She's a personal trainer at his gym. I found texts on his phone about a month ago. That's when I realized I wasn't special to him. And yet you continued the affair. She looked down ashamed. I was stupid. Selfish. Yes, you were. I tapped the paper. Sign it, or I send the motel receipts and my evidence to your broker's license board and every real estate agency in Boston. Her hand trembled as she picked up the pen. What are you going to do with this? That depends on what happens next. After she signed, I folded the paper and put it in my purse. Now tell me everything about Kira. By the time we parted, I had a name, a workplace, and a description. Megan had also agreed to meet Matt that evening to reconcile. Just an hour before he was supposed to have dinner with me. What do I tell him? She asked. Whatever you want, I replied. Just make sure you're at Lakeside Park at 6 p.m. Tell him you need closure. My next stop was Matt's gym. I paid for a day pass and asked for a personal training session with Kira Lynch. She was tall, blonde, and muscular. Nothing like me or Megan. Her smile faltered when I gave my name. Diaz, she repeated. Any relation to Matt Diaz? I smiled innocently. He's my husband. He recommended you highly. The color drained from her face. I think there's been a mistake. I'm fully booked today. Oh, I don't need a session, I said pleasantly. I just wanted to meet the woman who's been sleeping with my husband and possibly planning to start a new life with him using money from our joint accounts. Her eyes darted around the gym. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from last night. Her voice was distinct, asking Matt when he was going to handle the situation with his wife. How did you get that? She hissed. I have many talents, I replied, including the ability to make this recording go viral at your workplace. I wonder how your other clients' spouses would feel about your professional ethics. What do you want? She asked, voice tight. Information. How long, how serious, and what plans you've made together. She glanced at the clock. My next client is due in 5 minutes. Cancel it. She did. Over coffee in the gym's smoothie bar, Kira revealed a 6-month affair and plans to move to California together once Matt had sorted out his finances. He said you were controlling, that you monitored all the accounts, she explained. I laughed. And yet I only discovered his secret transfers yesterday. Her eyes widened. What transfers? The money he's been moving for your fresh start. Almost 30,000 so far. She shook her head slowly. He told me he couldn't save anything yet, because you watched the accounts too closely. We stared at each other as understanding dawned. He's playing both of us, she said flatly. 3 of us. I corrected. Don't forget Megan. Kira's face hardened. That lying bastard. I smiled. I'm glad we agree on something. Now here's what happens next. By the time I left the gym, Kira had agreed to meet Matt at Lakeside Park too, but 30 minutes after Megan's meeting. The trap was set. At home, I changed the locks, packed Matt's clothes into suitcases, and placed them by the front door. I called my brother Michael and asked him to come over. Everything okay, sis? He asked when he arrived. I shook my head. Matt's been cheating. Multiple women. I'm ending it tonight, but I wanted someone here when I do it. Michael's expression darkened. He and Matt had been friends before I started dating him. That son of a... Save it. I interrupted. Just be here at 7:30. And bring your truck. At 5:30, I drove to Lakeside Park and found a bench with a clear view of the meeting spot I'd specified to both women. I wore sunglasses and a hat, just another person enjoying the evening sun. At 6:03, Megan arrived, pacing nervously. Matt showed up 5 minutes later, looking around furtively before approaching her. I couldn't hear their conversation, but their body language told the story. He was placating, reaching for her hands. She was resistant at first, then softening. Classic Matt charm offensive. Then, right on schedule, Kira appeared in her gym clothes, stopping dead when she saw them together. I watched Matt's face transform from confusion to panic as she stormed over. The shouting was loud enough to attract attention from other park visitors. Megan's face crumpled as Kira revealed their relationship. Matt tried to calm them both, casting frantic glances around the park. I stood up and walked away before he could spot me, smiling as I heard Kira scream something about $30,000. By the time I reached my car, Matt was running after both women as they stormed off in different directions. At home, I set the table for one and waited. Michael arrived at 7:25, sitting quietly in the living room out of sight from the entry. Matt burst through the door at 7:40, face flushed with anger. What the hell did you do? He demanded. I looked up from my dinner calmly. I had a productive day. You. Don't play games, Carmen. You set me up. No, you set yourself up, I replied. 3 women, Matt? Couldn't decide which one you wanted to lie to the most. His face contorted. You had no right to interfere in my private life. Private life? I laughed. We're married. Your private life became my business when you said I do. He noticed the suitcases by the door. What's this? Your things. I changed the locks. You don't live here anymore. You can't do that. This is my house too. Actually, she can, Michael said, stepping into the room. And you're leaving now. Matt's eyes widened. Mike, come on, man. This is between me and Carmen. Not anymore, my brother replied coldly. And it's Michael to you. Matt turned back to me. This isn't over. Half of everything is mine. I smiled. Including the debts? Because I found those too. His face paled. What are you talking about? The gambling debts, Matt. The online poker accounts. The loans from people whose names I don't recognize. I slid a folder across the table. It's all here. Every transaction, every loss, every lie. How did you find out? That's not important. What matters is what happens next. I stood up. Option 1. You sign these papers giving me the house and car. I assume responsibility for the joint accounts and credit cards. And we file an uncontested divorce citing irreconcilable differences. He stared at the documents, jaw tight. And option 2? I call the people you owe money to. I show them proof that you've been hiding assets. I file for divorce citing adultery, financial fraud, and emotional distress, with evidence of all 3. Your choice. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other across the table. 12 years of marriage reduced to a standoff. You have until tomorrow to decide, I said. Michael will help you with your bags. As they carried the suitcases to my brother's truck, I sank into a chair, adrenaline finally wearing off. My phone buzzed with texts from both Megan and Kira, comparing notes on Matt's deceptions. I'd created a group chat for the three of us, united now in our anger toward the same man. When Michael returned, he hugged me tightly. He's gone. Are you okay? I nodded against his shoulder. I will be. What Matt didn't realize as he drove away was that I had access to something even more damaging than his affairs. His work laptop that he'd left behind contained evidence of him embezzling from his company to cover his gambling debts. And tomorrow I would be meeting with his company's head of security. The corporate offices of Westfield Financial Group towered above me as I straightened my blazer. Matt's company laptop weighed heavily in my bag, both physically and metaphorically. Mrs. Diaz? A security guard approached. Mr. Reynolds is ready for you. I followed him through security checkpoints to a conference room where three people waited. James Reynolds, head of security, Patricia Alvarez, HR director, and an older man I recognized as William Westfield himself, CEO and founder. Thank you for coming, Reynolds said, gesturing to a chair. You mentioned you had sensitive information regarding your husband's activities at our firm. I placed the laptop on the table. Before I turn this over, I need assurances. What kind of assurances? Westfield asked, leaning forward. First, written confirmation that I won't be held liable for anything Matt has done. Second, protection from any potential backlash from him when he discovers I've come to you. Patricia slid a document across the table. Our legal team prepared this after your call. It absolves you of any connection to potentially illegal activities conducted by Matt Diaz while employed here. I read it carefully before signing. Thank you. Now, Reynolds said, what exactly have you found? I opened the laptop and entered the password. Matt has been transferring company funds to personal accounts, then moving that money to gambling sites. He disguised the transactions as vendor payments. I pulled up spreadsheets showing the pattern, small amounts at first, then growing larger over time. Nearly $150,000 over 8 months. The three executives exchanged glances. How did you discover this? Westfield asked. I found evidence of his affairs first, I explained. When I started looking deeper, I uncovered the gambling addiction. Once I knew what to look for, the financial discrepancies became obvious. Reynolds took control of the laptop, examining the files. This is extensive. There's more, I said. He created false vendor accounts using variations of his mistresses' names. Patricia's eyebrows shot up. Mistresses plural? I nodded. At least 2 that I know of. Mrs. Diaz, Westfield said gravely, we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I understand this must be difficult for you personally. I'm filing for divorce, I said simply. But I couldn't in good conscience allow his theft to continue. We'll need to involve law enforcement, Reynolds warned. I understand. I handed him a card. This is my attorney's contact information. She's expecting your call. As they escorted me out, Patricia hung back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Matt always presented himself as a devoted family man. I smiled thinly. He's an excellent performer. Outside, the spring air felt cleansing. My phone showed a missed call from Megan and a text from Kira. He tried to contact me again. I blocked him. I replied to the group chat. Meeting went as expected. Next phase beginning. By evening, news of Matt's arrest had spread through our social circle. My phone exploded with concerned messages. I ignored most, responding only to my closest friends with a simple, "Yes, we're divorcing. No, I don't want to discuss details." At 9 p.m., Sandra called. Westfield's legal team reached out, she said. They're pressing charges for embezzlement and fraud. They also mentioned a potential reward for whistleblowers. I didn't do it for money, I replied. Nevertheless, it's company policy. 15% of recovered funds. I did the math quickly. That's over $20,000. Potentially more as they're still investigating. Also, given the criminal charges, we're in an excellent position for the divorce settlement. The doorbell rang. Someone's here. I'll call you tomorrow. Through the peephole, I saw Matt's mother, Eleanor. I hesitated, then opened the door. Carmen, she said, eyes red from crying. Please tell me it's not true. I stepped aside to let her in. Which part? The affairs, the stealing, the arrest, all of it. Her voice broke. My son is not a criminal. I led her to the living room. I'm sorry, Eleanor. I have proof of everything. She collapsed onto the sofa. Why would he do this? We raised him better. The gambling started about a year ago, I explained. Everything else followed. The lies, the affairs, the theft. He needed money to cover his losses. And you're divorcing him? It wasn't really a question. Yes. She nodded slowly. I can't blame you. She looked around at the home Matt and I had built together. I always thought you two would give me grandchildren someday. The comment stung more than she knew. All those months of trying for a baby, while Matt was sleeping with other women and gambling away our future. Life doesn't always go as planned, I said softly. She reached for my hand. No, it doesn't. But you deserve better than what my son gave you. After she left, I sat alone in the quiet house. For the first time since finding the motel receipt, I allowed myself to cry, not for the man Matt had turned out to be, but for the life I had thought we were building. The next morning, I woke to news alerts on my phone. Westfield Financial Group had issued a press release about an employee's arrest for embezzlement. They didn't name Matt, but financial circles would figure it out quickly. I dressed carefully for my meeting with the divorce mediator. As I applied lipstick, I studied my reflection. The woman looking back at me was stronger than the one who had started this journey 5 days ago. At the mediator's office, I was surprised to find Matt already there, accompanied by a sharp-looking attorney. Mrs. Diaz, the mediator greeted me. Please have a seat. Your attorney is on her way. Matt wouldn't meet my eyes. His lawyer spoke instead. Given the circumstances, my client is prepared to offer generous terms. I smiled politely. We'll wait for Sandra, thank you. When she arrived, the real negotiations began. Matt's lawyer pushed for a clean split, each of us walking away with what we brought into the marriage. Sandra laughed. That's not how this works. Your client committed financial fraud, adultery, and is facing criminal charges. Mrs. Diaz is entitled to significantly more. My client has limited assets at this time, his lawyer argued. Which is why we'll be seeking alimony and a greater share of the property division, Sandra countered. Not to mention compensation for emotional distress. Matt finally spoke. Carmen, please. I've lost everything already. I looked at him directly. No, Matt. You threw everything away. There's a difference. The mediator cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a brief recess. In the hallway, Matt cornered me. I know you turned me into Westfield. Yes, I admitted. I did. They're pressing charges. I could go to prison. That's the natural consequence of stealing, Matt. His face hardened. I never thought you'd be this vindictive. And I never thought you'd be a cheater and a thief, yet here we are. Sandra approached, breaking our standoff. Everything okay? Fine, I said. Matt was just leaving. When we reconvened, Matt's lawyer presented new terms. He would relinquish all claims to our house and investments in exchange for a quick, clean divorce with no alimony. Sandra looked at me questioningly. I nodded. We accept, she said, with one addition. My client receives full ownership of all furniture, vehicles, and personal property currently in her possession. Matt's lawyer consulted with him briefly. Agreed. As we signed the preliminary papers, I felt a weight lifting. The final divorce would take months to process, but this was the beginning of the end. Outside, rain had started to fall. Matt stood under the building's awning, looking lost. Despite everything, a small part of me ached for the man I had loved. Goodbye, Matt, I said, walking past him to my car. Carmen, he called after me. For what it's worth, I did love you. In the beginning. I turned to face him one last time. That's the saddest part of all this. I believe you. That evening, Megan and Kira both texted, asking for updates. I considered ignoring them, but instead invited them to meet me at a quiet bar downtown. We weren't friends, but we shared a unique bond. Over drinks, we compared notes on Matt's lies. The picture that emerged was of a man spiraling deeper into addiction and deception, telling each of us exactly what we wanted to hear. He told me you two had separate bedrooms, Kira said, shaking her head. He told me you were only staying together for financial reasons, Megan added. Meanwhile, he was stealing from his company to pay gambling debts neither of us knew about. I finished. Kira raised her glass. To freedom from Matt Diaz. Megan hesitated, then lifted hers as well. To new beginnings. I clinked my glass against theirs. To truth, however painful. As we parted ways, Megan lingered. I know you'll never forgive me, but I am truly sorry. I looked at my former best friend. You're right. I won't forgive you. But I'm not angry anymore. That's progress. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Take care of yourself, Carmen. I watched her walk away. A chapter of my life closing with each step she took. At home, I wandered through rooms that were now truly mine. The house felt different. Emptier in some ways, fuller in others. I opened windows, letting fresh air sweep through. In the bedroom, I stripped the sheets Matt had slept on and replaced them with new ones. In the closet, I gathered his remaining clothes for donation. As I cleaned, I found remnants of our life together. Concert tickets, anniversary cards, vacation photos. Instead of the sharp pain I expected, I felt a gentle melancholy. 12 years couldn't be erased, even if the last of them had been built on lies. My phone rang, an unknown number. Is this Carmen Diaz? A woman's voice asked when I answered. Yes, who's this? Jennifer Walsh from Boston General HR. I understand you're going through some personal changes. I wanted to check if you're planning to return to work next week or if you need more time. I looked around at my half-cleared house. Actually, I could use another week if possible. Of course. And she hesitated. We've had some calls from reporters asking about your husband's situation. Hospital policy is strict about protecting staff privacy. Thank you. I appreciate that. After we hung up, I realized I'd need to decide whether to keep my married name or revert to my maiden name, Rodriguez. One more decision in a week full of them. I opened my laptop and began a list titled Fresh Start. First item, schedule therapy. Second, repaint the bedroom. Third, explore transfer opportunities at the hospital. As I worked on my list, an email arrived from Westfield Financial Group's legal department, confirming the whistleblower reward. The amount made me catch my breath. Nearly $30,000. Enough for a fresh start indeed. What I didn't know as I planned my new beginning was that Matt's criminal activities went deeper than anyone suspected. And tomorrow morning 2 FBI agents would be at my door with questions about offshore accounts I never knew existed. The FBI agents arrived precisely at 8 a.m. Agent Donna Chun and Agent Marcus Brooks showed their badges as I invited them in, still wearing my bathrobe and clutching my coffee mug. Mrs. Diaz, we're investigating financial crimes connected to your husband, Agent Chun explained. We believe his embezzlement scheme extends beyond Westfield Financial. I gestured toward the living room. I've already told Westfield everything I know. Agent Brooks nodded. We've seen those records. We're more interested in accounts in the Cayman Islands and wire transfers to Singapore. Coffee nearly spilled from my mug. Excuse me. Your husband has been moving money internationally, Chin clarified. We need to determine your level of involvement. I had no idea about any of this, I said, setting down my mug. The embezzlement itself was a shock to me. Brooks studied my face. Mrs. Diaz, do you and your husband file joint tax returns? A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Yes. Every year. And you signed those returns? Of course. My hand trembled slightly. Are you saying I could be implicated in this? Chen's expression softened slightly. We're saying we need your cooperation to understand the full scope of the situation. For the next 2 hours, they questioned me about our finances, travel, and Matt's behavior over the past few years. I described finding the gambling evidence, the affairs, the company theft. May I call my attorney? I finally asked. Of course, Brooks said. In fact, we'd prefer if legal counsel was present for our next discussion. Sandra arrived within the hour, professionally poised but clearly concerned. My client is the whistleblower who exposed Mr. Diaz's crimes, she reminded the agents. She's a victim here, not an accomplice. We understand, Chen replied. However, there are significant tax implications. As they explained the situation, the room seemed to tilt sideways. Matt had claimed foreign business losses on our joint returns. Losses from businesses that didn't exist, creating tax deductions we weren't entitled to. Am I going to be charged with tax fraud? I asked directly. The agents exchanged glances. That depends on your level of involvement and your willingness to cooperate, Brooks answered. Sandra leaned forward. My client will cooperate fully, but we need assurances. We can discuss immunity agreements, Chen said. But we'll need complete transparency. After they left, Sandra stayed behind. This is serious, Carmen, but manageable. The fact that you came forward about the embezzlement works in your favor. I just want this nightmare to end, I whispered. It will, she promised. But first we need to make sure you're protected legally. Over the next week, I became an open book to the FBI. I provided every financial document I could find, gave them access to my emails, and spent hours in interviews describing my marriage to Matt. They verified my work schedules against the times of suspicious transfers. They confirmed I had never traveled to the Cayman Islands or Singapore. Gradually, it became clear I had been kept in the dark about Matt's more Carmenisticated crimes. 10 days after their first visit, Agents Chen and Brooks returned with formal immunity paperwork. In exchange for your continued cooperation, you're cleared of any potential charges related to the tax fraud, Chen explained as I signed. What happens to Matt? I asked. He's facing multiple federal charges, Brooks said. The evidence you've provided has been invaluable. That afternoon, I visited Matt in the county jail where he awaited transfer to federal custody. He looked smaller somehow, the expensive suits and confident smile replaced by a jumpsuit and shadows under his eyes. Why are you here? He asked when he saw me. To understand, I replied. The Cayman Islands, Matt? Tax fraud? How deep does this go? He stared at the table between us. You turned me in. Again. The FBI came to me. They thought I was involved. His head snapped up. Did they charge you? No. I have immunity now. Something like relief crossed his face. Good. You weren't involved. But I could have been implicated because of you, I said. Just like I could have caught something from one of your affairs. Just like I almost lost my savings to your gambling. When does it end, Matt? He rubbed his face with both hands. It ends here, I guess. They're talking 15 years, Carmen. The number hung in the air between us. 15 years. He would be nearly 50 when he got out. I never meant for any of this to happen, he said quietly. I believe that, I replied. But it did happen. All of it. Is there any chance, he began. No, I cut him off. There isn't. As I stood to leave, he called my name. Carmen. I'm sorry. For everything. I looked at him. Really looked at the man I had promised to love forever. I know. But sorry doesn't fix this. Outside the jail, I took deep breaths of fresh air. The weight I'd been carrying since finding that motel receipt was finally lifting. I was free, of Matt, of suspicion, of the life I'd thought was real. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. House is ready. Painters finished this morning. I smiled. Michael had been coordinating the renovation of my bedroom and home office. Symbolic fresh starts for my new life. On my way, I texted back. The house looked different when I arrived. Brighter. The master bedroom walls, once a compromise beige, now shone in a rich teal I'd always wanted. The home office, previously Matt's domain, had been transformed into a peaceful retreat with a reading nook and desk facing the window. What do you think? Michael asked, watching my reaction. It's perfect, I said, hugging him. Thank you. That evening, I hosted a small gathering, my brother and his wife, 2 friends from the hospital, and my elderly neighbor Mrs. Patel, who had watched the drama unfold from across the street with concern. A toast, Michael said, raising his glass. To Carmen, the strongest woman I know. To new beginnings, I added. As we ate and talked, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, maybe years. Joy. Simple, uncomplicated happiness in the company of people who genuinely cared about me. After everyone left, I sat on my porch swing in the cool evening air. My phone showed a notification from the Boston Globe. Financial executive faces federal charges in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. I didn't click on it. Matt's story wasn't mine anymore. Instead, I opened my email and found the response I'd been waiting for. Boston General had approved my transfer request to their new pediatric intensive care unit. New responsibilities, new colleagues, new challenges. I also had an email from a realtor about a beachfront cottage rental on Cape Cod. Available for the month of August, she wrote. Perfect for a solo retreat or small gatherings. I booked it immediately. The ocean had always been my happy place, though Matt had preferred mountain vacations. Another compromise I no longer needed to make. As night fell, I walked through my renewed home, turning off lights, straightening pillows. In the master bathroom, I opened the medicine cabinet and removed the fertility vitamins I'd been taking for the past year. After a moment's hesitation, I dropped them in the trash. Children might still be in my future, but not on anyone else's timeline but my own. In bed, surrounded by fresh sheets and the scent of new paint, I opened my journal and began to write. Today marks 1 month since I found that motel receipt. 1 month since my life imploded. 1 month of pain, rage, investigation, and finally resolution. I lost a husband and a best friend, but I found myself. I discovered strength I didn't know I had. I learned that endings can be beginnings in disguise. Tomorrow I return to work. I'll face questions and whispers, but I'll hold my head high. I have nothing to be ashamed of. Matt made his choices. I've made mine. And for the first time in years, I'm choosing myself. 6 months later, my divorce was finalized on a crisp autumn morning. I stood on the courthouse steps as Carmen Rodriguez once again, reclaiming my maiden name along with my independence. Sandra handed me the final decree. Congratulations. It's officially over. I took the document, the legal endpoint of 12 years of marriage. Thank you for everything. What's next for you? She asked as we walked to the parking lot. I smiled. I'm leaving for Spain next week. 3 weeks of solo travel. Sounds wonderful. It's something I always wanted to do, I explained. And now there's nothing stopping me. That night, I packed away my wedding album and rings in a box marked past, and placed it high on a closet shelf. Not thrown away, but no longer center stage in my life. On my nightstand sat a travel guide to Barcelona, and a journal with future, embossed on its leather cover. The first page already contained a list. Things to do before turning 40. Number 1. Live without regrets. As I drifted to sleep, I felt at peace. The betrayal that had shattered my world had also set me free. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives become the catalysts for the best ones. And I was just getting started.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.